Zara had spent most of the evening hanging out with her friend at a restaurant, catching up. It was a beautiful night, quiet, peaceful, serene even. But all good things must come to an end, and it was time for the two to say their goodbyes. Zara and her friend hugged and went their separate ways. Zara walked back home, a walk that should have taken about 10 minutes, but she could have never guessed that this walk would be her last. Lurking in the shadows was a predator, silently lying in wait for his next victim. And his next victim was Zara. Welcome to True Crime Stories. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ty Knotts, and I post new true crime documentaries every single week. We don't use a bunch of AI voiceovers or overinflated drama. It's just good old-fashioned true crime. So if that's something you're into, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's totally free and just lets you know when I post new videos. Zara Elina was the firstborn of 5 children. Her mom was a single mother, and she lived in a house full of women with her grandma, aunts, and sisters. Zara's grandparents were originally from Pakistan, and they made a huge move to the UK for a better life in 1968. For Zara's family, even though they didn't have much, education held prime importance, and they wanted the young women of their family to be well educated. Zara had dreams of becoming a lawyer and becoming an advocate for women's rights. She believed no woman should be scared to walk home alone at night, and that every woman had the liberty to do whatever she wanted, with no fear of monsters in the street. She and her friends were very passionate about women's safety and rights, so this was a sentiment that was important to Zara throughout her life. Zara was defined as selfless, caring, and a breath of fresh air. She loved tap dancing, ballet, and traveling to different places. She was also the full-time carer for her grandma and mother, and on top of that, she also worked with refugees seeking shelter from violence in the UK. It's become so cliche at this point. When you hear about a true crime case, the narrator tries to paint the victim as some kind of innocent saint. But let me tell you, there's no exaggeration or embellishment here. Zara was legendary. When Zara got a job as a solicitor at the Royal Courts of Justice just 5 weeks before the events of today's case, her aunt Farah told her that one day she would be a formidable force. And a formidable force Zara certainly was. Zara was truly a hero. But heroes aren't invincible, no matter what the comic books and movies may lead you to believe. And Zara was about to become one of the very victims she tried so hard to protect. On June 25th, after getting done with her work at the Royal Courts of Justice, Zara had plans to meet up in the evening to meet up with a friend at a local pub called the Great Spoon of Ilford. Interestingly, as the two friends were hanging out and chatting over dinner, a man in the restaurant had begun to cause a bit of a ruckus. He was harassing women who were just trying to enjoy their dinner, and the man was eventually removed from the restaurant by security. It was a strange incident, but nothing to really worry about. After the commotion settled, Zara and her friend got back to their evening. Everything went great, and the two had an amazing time, vowed to meet up again sometime soon, and that was that. They went their separate ways. It was a short walk back to her home, and Zara was not scared of walking home at night. She'd done it before, and the path was well lit, so there was nothing to really worry about. But this time, everything took a turn for the worse. See, there was a man who lived near Zara, and he was known as a bit of a creep. Zara didn't know the man personally, but many people around her did, and they all did their best to stay away from this guy. The man in question is 29-year-old Jordan McSweeney, and I'll say this right off the bat, he was a stranger to Zara, but not to the Metropolitan Police. Jordan had about 69 offenses, out of which he'd been convicted for about 28. He was involved in theft, petty crime, assault on civilians and police, and aggravated harassment. He was an outlaw since he was a teenager. He belonged to an unstable family and was even subjected to all kinds of abuse. But instead of getting the help he needed to move forward, he turned to a life of crime and spent more time on the streets or in prison than at home. To put it simply, Jordan was a nightmare for women because not long after one of his countless releases from prison, he started to harass women on the streets, following them, acting inappropriately in front of them, and just being an overall menace. If a woman was having a peaceful evening going to a restaurant or just walking down the street, leave it to Jordan to ruin her day in the worst way by traumatizing her. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, cool, but why do I care about this Jordan guy? Well, it turns out he was the guy who was kicked out of the restaurant that Zara was visiting earlier that night. After being removed from the restaurant, Jordan was seen on CCTV staggering on the busy road, narrowly missing getting hit by cars and buses. Well, it turns out Jordan shouldn't have been roaming the streets to begin with, and certainly shouldn't have been at the restaurant that evening. He'd actually been released from prison on June 17th, just a couple of days before all of this unfolded, and he was living with a friend at Valentine's Park. Although he was out of prison, he was due to go back behind bars because he failed to show up for meetings with his probation officer. But he was never tracked down by the police, nor did his probation officer think that Jordan being a no-show was even suspicious. So basically they just let him get away with it. The police already knew that the man was a danger to society, and still they let him walk the streets of Ilford like he was no threat to anyone. If there's anyone who shouldn't have been allowed out on the streets of Ilford, it was Jordan. Because of the police's monumental negligence, a dangerous man was free to do whatever he pleased, and you can already tell he was up to no good. Well, before long, Jordan spotted a woman walking back home on Cranbrook Road. She was alone, and this was perfect for Jordan. He began walking close to her. He was breathing down this poor woman's neck, who had noticed him by now, and she just wanted him to leave her alone. The woman tried to lose Jordan by walking into a busy shop, but Jordan followed her inside too, although he had to leave because there were too many eyes on him and he couldn't act on his plan. But as much as I hate to say this, the woman wasn't free from Jordan's evil clutches just yet. After spending several minutes in the shop, she made her way out and resumed her walk back home, thinking she'd lost Jordan. But within seconds, like the devil himself, Jordan emerged and was in close pursuit. Jordan was actually hiding outside the shop and waiting for this woman to emerge. The woman was tormented by Jordan for over 20 minutes, and it's safe to assume that these must have been the worst 20 minutes of this woman's life. But luckily, she was able to lose him in the end, and she made it home unscathed, albeit severely traumatized and shaken. But was Jordan done? Well, of course not. He was still out on the streets, pestering women minding their own business and messing with them. At one point, he even went into a chicken shop and made a female employee extremely uncomfortable by being publicly inappropriate. A little before 2 a.m., Jordan found another woman to terrorize on the street after leaving the chicken shop, and he followed her. What was so infuriating was that the two men on the other side of the street were witnessing this scene, but chose not to do anything to stop him or help the woman in distress. If only Jordan had stopped there, things could have taken a much different turn. I'm telling you right now, there is a lot of what-ifs in this case, so many that you'll probably lose count. But anyway, at one point, Jordan was walking across the street from the woman, and he picked up speed and overtook the terrified woman. His plan was to wait for her in a dark driveway and pounce on her at the right moment, but luckily her house was near and she made it home safely too. Jordan was left feeling angry at this point. He hadn't managed to get his hand on the defenseless woman yet, so he decided to strike again for a final time. And this time, he crossed paths with none other than Zara Elina. When Zara reached Cranbrook Road, which was a couple minutes away from her home, she was noticed by Jordan, who decided to act on his evil plan. Now, Zara didn't see Jordan, and sadly, she would never get the chance to. Jordan came up behind an unsuspecting Zara and immediately grabbed her. He subdued her almost instantly and threw her to the ground. Mind you, this is all happening in front of someone's house, in the driveway. Jordan was so emboldened and arrogant that he didn't even care if anyone saw at this point. After this, Zara was tragically taken advantage of, and she was also attacked multiple times. And due to the severe attacks, Zara lost consciousness within minutes, but Jordan wasn't done yet. Zara sustained multiple serious injuries to her head as a result of the attack, and I don't think I need to go into detail about how this monster basically pummeled Zara into unconsciousness. The mind-boggling attack on this young woman lasted for 9 minutes, and Jordan left after he was disgustingly satisfied, stealing Zara's belongings and clothes and later abandoning them nearby. A badly injured and barely conscious Zara would later be found by strangers walking down Cranbrook Road a couple minutes after Jordan made a run for it. They immediately called emergency services because Zara was barely clinging to life. Paramedics arrived at the scene and rushed a barely conscious and gravely injured Zara to Royal London Hospital. Zara had endured a ton of injuries, both to her head and body, and she was barely breathing by now. Unfortunately, on June 26th at around 10 a.m., after being in intensive surgery for more than 5 hours, Zara Alina succumbed to her wounds. Her evening started so lively, but it ended in complete tragedy. Zara lost her life for simply walking home from a restaurant, which is just messed up and devastating. In the meantime, the police were on the same road where Zara was found, which had turned into a crime scene following Zara's passing, and they were basically at a loss. They didn't know who could have done this to Zara. Well, their best bet was to start with witnesses, and maybe CCTV footage if they're lucky. Well, they were, because the streets of Ilford had tons of security cameras, and the house in front of which Zara was attacked also had a surveillance camera. So that was what the police started with. Within no time, the police saw what they believed was the most traumatic and gut-wrenching scene caught on camera. The residential security camera recorded the whole attack on Zara. The long 9 minutes in which Zara fought for her life while the stranger subjected her to torture was all caught on camera. It was too much, even for the police, but at least they had a visual of the perpetrator. At the crime scene, there was also a couple of fingerprints left behind, so the police gathered those two as evidence, and luckily those fingerprints came back as a match to Jordan McSweeney, because remember, he was a well-known name in the criminal database, so that much was easy. Next, the police checked neighboring security cameras, and they saw all that Jordan had done a couple hours prior, terrorizing multiple women, following Zara and attacking her, and then making his way to Valentine's Park just off of Cranbrook Road. The park surveillance footage showed Jordan speed walking towards the fun fair after Zara's attack with a bag in hand. But after a couple of minutes, Jordan was seen shirtless and empty-handed when coming out of the fun fair tent. The police knew that they had their man, so they got to the park on June 27, 2022, and a day after Zara's brutal and senseless attack, Jordan McSweeney was arrested and charged with the assault and murder of Zara Alina. The detectives also broke the news of Zara's passing, and her grandmother remembers everything all too vividly. And how could she not? She was the one who identified Zara on the CCTV footage, trying to escape the clutches of a monstrous stranger. The news of Zara's passing shocked everyone to the core. A woman who was courageous and loved by many had become a victim of a stranger, and she'd been attacked in the same way as the many women in the news were. The news that Zara saw with her friends and family time and time again that motivated her to try to change the world. But sadly, she would never get the chance, and she too became one of the victims that she was trying so desperately to save. When the police arrested Jordan, they also retrieved the bag that he was seen carrying in the surveillance footage. And sure enough, inside the bag was the same gray prison-issued vest and Jordan's shoes, both of which had Zara's DNA on them, further pinning him to the crime scene. So why did Jordan attack Zara? This was the main question the police had. They were both strangers, so what compelled him to attack an innocent woman who was just minding her own business? Well, Jordan, instead of owning up to his crimes, decided to blame everything on his split personality disorder. He admitted he was under the influence of ADHD medication at the time of Zara's attack, and that he was not himself when he attacked her. He was unfazed by his actions, emotionless to the core, and not remorseful at all for taking an innocent woman's life, all because he had perverse desires. In the end, Jordan did plead guilty to the charges, which was fortunate because Zara's family wouldn't have to go through the painful process of a trial, and I'm sure they would have given anything to never lay eyes on that horrific CCTV footage of Zara's final moments ever again. But Jordan chose not to show up at any of his hearings or even his sentencing. He simply refused to leave his prison cell for his sentencing, and his reasoning will make you pull your hair out. Jordan didn't want to come to court for his sentencing because he, quote, didn't want to relive the incident. I mean, it isn't even his incident to relive. It's because of him that this incident occurred in the first place. This pathetic man didn't even think twice before ending Zara's life in the worst way imaginable, as well as terrorizing other innocent women on the street. And now he wants to pretend that he's ashamed or something. Ultimately, on the 14th of December, 2022, Old Bailey Court Judge Mrs. Justice Chima Grubb sentenced Jordan McSweeney to life in prison with a minimum of 38 years. He was also given a concurrent sentence of 4 years for assault. Mrs. Justice called out Jordan for not facing the music and called him spineless, which pretty much describes him perfectly. But if you thought this was the end of Jordan McSweeney and his antics, well, you'd be wrong, because not long ago, in October of 2023, Jordan appealed for a reduction in his sentence. And by some weird, bizarre loophole, in the end, And you won't be happy about hearing this, Jordan's prison sentence was reduced from that minimum of 38 years to 33 years. This means that Jordan will be eligible for parole in October of 2053. But surely any judge with half a brain will never, ever let this man out on parole. But that remains to be seen. The truth is, the attack on Zara was like scraping an old wound. London, or more generally the UK, had seen a lot of random attacks on women that resulted in their tragic passings. Sarah Everard, Libby Squire, and now Zara Elina, the public was outraged and basically had lost faith in the law enforcement agencies. It was because of their neglect and disinterest that Jordan was even out and free. He was out roaming the streets of London when he should have been in prison. The police assessed Jordan, and even though he had a truckload of offenses and convictions against him, he was still considered only a medium risk by the police. Just let that sink in. I just hope the police were at least surprised, if not ashamed at the fact, that the very convict that they assessed to be a medium risk literally trampled a woman to death. A lot of people were also angry at bystanders, who just let Jordan do whatever he wanted to women, especially Zara. Zara obviously screamed at the top of her lungs for help in a very public place, and no one even came to help or called the police, even though the crime literally took place outside someone's home in their driveway. It wasn't like it was in a remote area where no one was as far as the eye could see. It was a residential area, and still, no one bothered to help her. Zara's family is devastated by the loss of their bright and beautiful girl because she was a fearless woman who would have brought changes to the system and helped represent women who were too scared to speak out. Zara would have been a force to be reckoned with, and now she's not here and her family is just numb. Her Aunt Farah is still stuck in time. She's frozen in shock and still numbed from the pain. Every day, the Elina family wakes up and realizes Zara is gone, and that realization just breaks their hearts over and over again. Zara watched the news of women getting attacked with pain on her face, and she vowed to do something about it, one step at a time. But tragically, she was unable to do so, and instead of making a change, Zara's name joined the list of countless women who were attacked by random monsters lurking the streets. Following Zara's passing, her house became a memorial of sorts. Strangers were leaving flowers, kind and supportive messages, and their condolences for the grieving family. Violence against women is increasing at an alarming rate as the days go by. We're living in 2025 now, and things are pretty much the same for women, although there's been some positive progress and changes, but there's still a long way to go. When will women, or anyone for that matter, be safe to walk the streets of their city without looking over their shoulders? I read somewhere that it's alarming how true crime content never runs out, and it does hit you, doesn't it? I mean, it's haunting that people like That Chapter, Coffeehouse Crime, Truly Criminal, myself, and so many other true crime channels probably have better job security than 90% of the population strictly because people keep getting murdered like this. It is insane. Even with better security systems, protection, awareness, and more laws to reprimand criminals, things people didn't have in the 1600s and before that, we're still surrounded by monsters who can strike any time. It is truly chilling. I just hope that Zara's family is doing okay after time has passed, but how can anyone be okay when their loved one loses their life like that, without any explanation or even provocation? It is devastating, and my heart goes out to Zara's family and loved ones, who had so much more to achieve and look forward to in her life. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. I wanted to give a special thank you to a couple channel members, including Kawaii by Design and Rachel McMillan. If you also want to become a member of the channel, you'll gain access to new videos days or weeks before they're uploaded to the public. And it's an amazing way to help out the channel, and I appreciate all of you guys that have decided to do that. If you want to join, you can click that big join button below the video, or find the link down in the description. And don't forget, True Crime Stories t-shirts are also now available. You can grab one of those from a link down in the description as well. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, check out this other interesting case I covered, and don't forget to subscribe. It's totally free and just keeps you up to date with all my future videos. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.